Urban sprawl is the unplanned, uncontrolled spreading of urban development into areas adjoining the edge of a city. Urban sprawl is happening in developed places, mostly because they have the money. So many people are wanting to live in suburban areas because there's usually only families living there, so it's safer, and friends are easily made with other families. There's also more space for houses, so they usually have a front yard and a backyard, allowing space for children to play. But there's a downside to urban sprawl. It causes many problems related to health, the environment, the economy, and politics. Toronto is the city that has prevented urban sprawl the worst in Canada. It has a population of 5.5 million so far and continues to grow. Toronto is located in the south of Canada near the Great Lakes and is the capital of Ontario. Urban sprawl causes more traffic congestion, adding to the amount of emissions going into the air, contributing mainly to respiratory problems. The government tries to build more roads as the amount of vehicles increases, but it's increasing so rapidly that the government can't keep up. Having more cars on the road also raises the chances of having an accident. Urban sprawl is a major problem for the environment. The vehicle congestion leads to massive amounts of emissions going into the atmosphere. Road vehicles are the largest contributors of emissions to the atmosphere. All of this contamination leads to global warming, which affects climate change. Climate change can result in an increased number of storms, putting people and their homes at risk. Urban sprawl also affects the economy. Driving on 1 to 2 hour commutes or longer really adds up. Buying gas for these trips would definitely minimize the amount of money you save. Also, driving long distances every day will slowly break down the vehicle, making you spend more money on fixing parts. Urban sprawl also causes taxes to rise. The government needs money to build these suburban areas, and the only way to do it is to up the taxes. Urban sprawl is very controversial when it comes to politics. The government needs to decide whether they want to have high or low sprawl, and of course each one comes with its advantages and disadvantages. One side argues that sprawl is needed for space because low sprawl raises the crime, congestion, pollution, and prices, but the other side argues for the results of sprawl, like pollution, health problems, and spending too much money. Most people support sprawl because it helps for the short term. A solution to urban sprawl would be to wait a few years before starting to develop new suburban areas, and build more roads, highways, and alternative routes to places so that traffic wouldn't be so severe. Not having such severe traffic would minimize the amount of emissions going into the atmosphere, and the amount of health problems related to air pollution. Another solution would be to create public transportation that went from suburban areas to the city, for example trains. They are extremely efficient, minimal contribution to global warming, minimal land area needed, safer and faster than a vehicle, and moderately priced. There are many other solutions to urban sprawl, but most of them will only slow it down so that it's not happening so quickly. For example, upping the price of houses in suburban areas would help the economy problem a bit, and having green belts would also help the environment in terms of preserving it.